Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Steve Sachs, Professor Emeritus of Psychology, Computer Applications Office Technology and Counseling at Los Angeles Valley College. This semester I'm teaching an online course in Excel. CAOT 85 is the actual designation. And I've already had an inquiry, possibly others from earlier semesters, for Chapter 2 in the Lab 2, Instruction 2, which in the textbook appears on page EX126. What I'm going to do in a moment is put the instructions on the screen, and what you might want to do is pause this little video to read them through. But even before you do that, you're going to want to start in Excel on your computer with the Part 1 instructions completed. You start with a worksheet and then you modify it for Part 2. I'm going to have a worksheet on the screen after I put up those instructions, and I'm going to show you how I did that homework when I did it to test something out for a student, so you can see some of the things you've been learning in Excel put to work and put in action. There's a real pedantic way to do this exercise, and then there's a much more Excel-type thinking way to do it, which I'm going to show you. Actually, there are around 10 or 15 different ways to do it, but at least I'm going to show you one. So get Excel up, get your completed exercise one, in the Lab 2 instruction 1 done, put that up on your screen, then read the instructions that are coming up on my screen, which are the same that I took them out of the book, and then I'll show you how to handle this in a very Excel way. Okay, so here we have a completed worksheet from instruction number 1 for the exercise we're working with. I'm going to assume that all these numbers are correct. They were actually donated to me by a student, but I think they're going to work out. The basic instruction number 2 says, add to the incomes, which is in column C. Let me make sure that's right, that it's incomes. Yeah, add to the incomes $20,000 per person each time until the ending balance, which is in green in cell F18, ends up being $63,361. Well, a pedantic way to do this would be to go in, select the first income, like I just did, and add $20,000 to it. You could put an equal sign and then go out here and then go plus 20000 and enter that, and just keep doing it for each one. But that would be the way a non-Excel user who knows just a little bit would do it. So I'm going to undo that. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new column here in column G, starting in cell G4, that has the incomes plus $20,000. To make a column of data in G that's the existing incomes plus $20,000, I'm just going to hit an equal sign, go to the first income, this one for January, add 20,000 plus 20000, insert that. I'm going to make it wider, and now I'll copy that down for all the rest of the incomes, and you can see if you compare some of them. For example, let's look at 63,800. Well, this one with $20,000 more will be 83,811. Since these values in column G represent increased incomes, I'm going to go ahead and just type in a label to help us keep track of what's going on. And I'll make it a little wider. Okay. I looked at the math that's involved in this worksheet. And I know that this ending balance depends in part on the incomes. And the way that the ending balance depends on the incomes is by the net computation. I'm going to take a look at what's in cell E4. I'm going to double click on it, and we can see that the net is the incomes minus expenses. But what we're going to have to do is not look at the original incomes for the net, but instead to look over here at the increased incomes. So I need to change all of the formulae and column E up here so that instead of looking at C4, it looks at G4 to read the increased incomes. So I'm going to click here and change the C to a G and insert that. Now this particular cell looks over here at the increased income, but I need all of these cells to look at the increased income, not the old one. So I'm going to use the fill box here and drag it down, and you're going to see these values change as soon as I let go. They're all now $20,000 higher. And this cell, F18, the one we're supposed to be messing with, is still not big enough, which means adding $20,000 to each income was not enough. So what I'm going to do now is go up to cell G4 and look at the formula up here. Look at that in the formula bar. I had added $20,000. That's not working. So I'm going to have to add $40,000 to each income. Remember, the instructions for this homework thing said do it $20,000 at a time until it works. So I'm going to change this $20,000 to a $40,000, and that produces a higher increased income here, but now I've only affected cell G4 for January, so I need to use the fill box to bring it all the way down for everybody else. And if you take a look at that green cell in F18, when I let go, it's going to get better. Okay, there we've done $40,000 for the incomes. It still didn't give us the value that we need. I'm looking back on the instructions for part 2, and we should see 63,361. So time to go back to cell G4, and instead of $40,000, I'm going to make it $80,000 for every month, because we're supposed to increase them 20,000 at a time. Excuse me. So I've increased it for January. I need to use the fill box to increase it for all the rest. Watch that green cell in F18 change when I let go. 63,361. I think that's where we were supposed to go, isn't it? That's it. These are the correct incomes that produce the result that we were supposed to look for. Now, the worksheet still doesn't look right. We need the incomes in column C to be replaced by the incomes in column G, or this would be very visually confusing. So the first thing I have to do is I need to make all these increased incomes into values instead of formulae. Because, as you know, with relative cell references, if I tried to copy the stuff in column G, increased incomes, over to column C, regular incomes, so they'd read the higher numbers, the relative cell references would completely mess up and we'd get all kinds of errors. So I still have all of these increased incomes selected. I'm going to copy them and then paste them back as values rather than formulae. Right now you can see, as an example, G4 is equals C4 plus 80,000. So when we're done, it's just going to read 289,081. So I'm going to right-click and choose Copy, and then over the same range, I'm going to right-click and choose this icon, which is Values. I'm copying the formulae and pasting back values, which are the results of the formulae. So I click that, and now if you take a look, 289081 up here is no longer a formula. These all, I'll just click on a few of them, these are no longer formulae, they're actually values. I'm going to escape out. What I need to do now is I need to get these increased incomes over here where the computer will read them properly. Keeping in mind that if you move a range, it will wipe out whatever was in its way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move G4 through G15 over C4 through C15 so that it looks more correct. We don't need these old incomes in column C. We've already upped them by $80,000 and put the result here in column G, and we've also made column G, the values in column G show values instead of formulae. So I'm just going to drag all that stuff over and replace what's in column C. The computer's warning me, they're already data, do you want to replace? I'll say yes, and now we have it. we have all of the incomes increased by 80,000 each, but we have the correct 63,361 down here. So the rows 16, 17, 18 in column C got messed up because they were reading the old stuff. So I'm just going to take the formulae here, the average, the max, and the min, and I'm just going to use the fill box and drag them over here, and now we are done. Oh, I'll get rid of the increased incomes there. That's how it's done with Excel thinking. Now, I know I went kind of fast, but at least you might have gotten the feel. The basic idea was that I determined how the formulae worked. I realized that the incomes needed to be increased by 20,000 for each month simultaneously, and then 40,000 if that didn't work. And I don't know, I might have missed 60,000, but I actually knew it was going to take 80,000 to do it. And we eventually got to our target. So I hope you found this interesting, at least helping you see how thinking in Excel works out once you have those tools kind of at your disposal. And that's what happens when you study them over and over again, and you can get a cumulative final exam that makes you remember the stuff, and then you can put it to use and amaze your friends and make all kinds of money as an Excel consultant. Good luck, everybody.